that as far as just the mindset that you need to be able to take it to the next level. A lot of us obviously want to be successful, but it's not many people that actually talk about the mindset you need to get to that level. We all talk about the strategies in business, whether you're in real estate or any type of business. When it comes to entrepreneur, we talk about the strategies within the business. But there's one thing that's common amongst the most successful people in the world is they understand that they have to have that mindset to get to that level. And being somebody that has created a business from nothing and also exited a business with a very exclusive class. Not a lot of people build businesses to sell them, and they don't build businesses worthy of being sold. So Mr. Freeman started his business, but I let him tell his story. But before I get going, let me have Justin and Vincent introduce themselves and get started.
Hey, this sounds like a really deep conversation. Can we have a little bit of fun first?
I love it, man. You're always doing something new. I think he's creative as you.
Hey, man, I just wanted to, honestly, I'm just playing with my gear, my setup, and I was like, this might be a good way to test it out. So anyway, man, Justin, why don't you start out with an introduction? I figure that's the best intro in the history of all intros in all of hip hop. So anyway, why don't you start, man? Introduce yourself.
Yeah, I could build Clubhouse from ground up, but he probably doesn't know how to hit the mute button.
Microphone on. All right, that's cool. So he still figured.
Sorry about that.
There he goes.
This is a weekly thing where it's a daily thing actually, where I can't find mute buttons and all these different apps that we got to use for connecting. So sorry about that. But yeah, I'm Justin Winters, 1/3 of what we call the JMV, or I don't know what we call it. But yeah, Justin, Max, and Vince, we own a few companies together, as Max said. I'm the technical side and have spent years building large applications, enterprise applications, from the insurance industry through to the real estate industry. My dad was in the real estate and advertising as a kid, so I'm a technical person with an advertising mindset, and been best friends with Vince for, I'm not going to say how many years. I'm not going to age myself, but yeah. So that's Justin. That's me from New Jersey. Live in Herndon, Virginia now.
Cool. So, am I up?
Yep, this one you got.
Cool. So, yeah, man, I'll be very quick because I want to spend most of this conversation here in Darrell's story. I did a little bit of just sort of reading up and fascinating story, man. So I'm excited to get into that. As for me, yeah, I'm the other third of this Trinity, if you will. We own a couple of companies together, REI Rail and REI Skip. Before that, I worked in financial services for a bunch of years. So did really big transactions, but that was mostly moving other people's money around. So decided to become an entrepreneur, decided to connect with the smartest guy I knew, which is Justin Winters. And then a few years later, we met this guy, Max, and that was the final ingredient that we needed. And we've been really successful and built 2 7-figure businesses. Max has got a bunch of other businesses even besides that, but these two have done pretty well for us. So working in real estate, but specifically on the real estate tech side of things, and have investments elsewhere as well. So I'll stop there, and I'll pass it over to the guest of honor.
Well, hey, thank you, Vince and Justin, Max. Thank you for having me this evening. It's a pleasure to speak with you all and the folks on the phone. I'm Darrell Freeman. Nothing really special about me. I started my first company at the age of 26 with $2,000 in savings and a bunch of credit cards that belonged to my wife. And the mindset behind starting that company was I was working for another company, and I was making the company a lot of money. I was making a lot of money, but the money wasn't coming to me. And so I figured if I can make a lot of money for somebody else, I can make it for myself. So I quit that job and started a company called Zycon in the office of the size of a closet, again, with a couple $1,000 in savings and my wife's credit cards. And every day I would go into that office with no clients, and I would call 75 to 100 people. And every day I would get 99% no's back. from the folks that I was calling. And every now and then I would get a yes that I could come visit their office, but once I got to their office, then they would tell me no. And so the no's had nothing to do with my vision. And so one of the mindsets of millionaires is no doesn't really mean no. No just means keep going. And so getting those no's just continue to inspire me to get more no's the next day and the next day. And every now and then I will get a yes. But the reason why I quit my job, I was making the other company a lot of money. And the mindset of at that time I was broke, but now I'm a multi-millionaire. The mindset of back then was I didn't want to have a steady job with steady income. That seemed kind of boring to me. And then also thinking about working at that job when I was 26, everything that I was going to do in life was going to be controlled by somebody else. And so if the millionaire mindset says that, hey, you want to control your own financial destiny. That's one of the reasons why I quit my first job. And so started the first company, $2,000 in savings, grew that company from one person to about 300 people, signed multi-million-dollar contracts with companies around the country. And just through hard work, perseverance, determination, persistence, all those things that's required to have to make millions of dollars. And so my thought was every day I would go into the office and I would go into action. And that's the difference between somebody with a millionaire mindset or somebody who's just talking about wanting to become a millionaire. So the millionaire mindset is more about doing the work as opposed to talking about the work. And so what's really strange to me today in the day of social media, I'm glad it wasn't around when I was starting my company. It seems like to me people are doing more showing than they're actually doing. They're doing more posting about business than they're actually doing business. And so the millionaire mindset says, hey, go do the work. Go do the work and drive the results. Go do the work and drive the results. Millionaires, the millionaire mindset also says you need to go somewhere every day and try something and fail. You try something and fail. And so as a multi-millionaire today, I have failed more times than I have succeeded. And so every day I'm looking for things to fail at because some of my greatest learnings came from failing. So I got this company, $2,000 in savings, a bunch of credit cards. The value of it is zero. Actually, it's actually negative because I got some debt on the credit cards. But every day I'm going in, I'm grinding, I'm making calls, I'm going to meetings, I'm being told no. But the millionaire mindset says no doesn't mean no. No means keep going. Every day I go in, I would fail. And what happened was I continued to fail, and I learned so much from my failures. The difference between a millionaire and somebody who's not a millionaire, when they fail, my failures are not standing on top of me. I'm standing on top of my failures. I am standing on top of my failures. And so if you're thinking about how you want to become successful as an entrepreneur, you got to embrace failure, and you can't let those failures get you down. You got to embrace failure, and you've got to stand on top of those failures and not let those failures stand on top of you. So I brag to my friends all the time. I'm really 6'1" in real life, but in entrepreneurial life, I'm probably 95 feet tall because I got a bunch of failures beneath me. They're not on top of me. They're not on top of me. And so then the other thing I learned when growing this small company from $2,000 that eventually got to about 40-something million in revenue, I realized that the millionaire mindset says, don't build companies around yourself. Build companies around people. So I put a team of people together, that made the company more valuable. But what that means is, as an entrepreneur, oftentimes, Max, we're A personalities. We believe everything needs to flow through us. We believe that if the business is going to succeed, it's going to succeed because of us. We believe that, hey, this is our baby, and we want to run it. We want to control it. But what I learned was when you get good people on your team, you need to shrink yourself so that they can perform. You need to shrink yourself. You need to become smaller in the business so that the folks around on your team can take the ball, if you will, and run with it. And so I spent many years shrinking myself to the point that I fired myself. when the company got to about 16 million in revenue, and it stayed there for like 3 years. And I realized that it wasn't my team that made the revenue stagnant. It was actually me that made the revenue stagnant.
Darrell, real quick before you go further, because you're dropping a lot of really good stuff, and I want to make sure that we don't miss any of it along the way in your story. But I want to go back to something that you said a moment ago. But actually, even before I go back to that point that I want to drill down on, I want to do just some quick housekeeping. Darrell, I see your party hat, so that means you're new to Clubhouse. Can you do me a favor? Can you hold down Max's avatar and then mine and then Justin's and go to where it says make moderator? Because right now you're the only moderator on stage, which means we can't bring people up for questions and things like that. And I know folks are going to want to ask you some questions.
So I got to hold down Max. I see Max's. I see Max's. Hold it down.
Yep. And then if you look down there at the bottom, you should see something that says make moderator.
Is it MM?
Well, if you just hold down on his picture right next to yours, you should see a few options down below. And one of them should be make moderator. So you'll see it if you don't just yet. You see it?
Well, I see when I press Max's picture, it brings up his profile.
Well, that's interesting.
So I need to bring up his picture.
So just hold it down. Yeah,
you need to do a long press. Do a long press.
And while you're doing that, real quick, let me reset the room just so folks know where they are. So this is the Millionaire Mindset room that Max started. We did one of these a few weeks ago, and it was we had hundreds of people in there. Max's favorite topic is certainly one of my favorite topics to talk about as well. And so Justin and I are on here to help facilitate this conversation. But really, we want to highlight and hear from Darrell Freeman, who is a very successful entrepreneur, has done the thing that is most elusive to so many entrepreneurs, which is to exit a company. And this is a company that he founded, took it all the way to exit, and sold it for over $20 million. So he was just beginning to get into his story. But again, before we go all the way deep into that story, I just want to do a little bit of housekeeping, reset the room, and let folks know where they are. We will do a little bit of Q&A here in a moment. But again, I just want to make sure folks are oriented as to what the conversation is tonight. Darrell, how are we making out with pressing down on that picture of Max and making him moderator?
I see the picture of Max.
Just hold it down, a consistent press, like don't lift your finger.
Okay, I got you. Make moderator.
Bingo.
Okay. I'm going to hold down Vincent.
There you go, and then do that for Justin as well. Perfect. So me and Max got it, now Justin's got it too. Cool. Now we all got mod badges. All right. Good stuff. All right, so
what's your question for me?
Yeah, so my question that I wanted to go back to was, you said you were talking about doing hard things. And I was looking at some of your interviews and stuff, and I know that's a big theme and a big thing for you. Can you talk about, specifically, I have heard you say, doing hard things means it's not crowded. Can you say a little bit more about the importance of doing hard things?
Yeah, so there's no substitution. There's no substitute for hard work. And so I've never been the smartest person in the room or in corporate America, but I would outwork the next person. And so when you do the hard stuff, the road is not crowded. When you have to overcome a bunch of obstacles, most of the times those same obstacles have gotten rid of the competition. And so I believe in working hard, outworking my competition so that I can overcome those obstacles so that when I get to the destination, there's very few people there other than me because I outworked the rest of them. I didn't outsmart them, but I outworked them. And so, becoming a successful business person requires that you do the hard stuff. And so what does the hard stuff mean? It means getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning. And you may have to work to 5 o'clock again, not 5 o'clock p.m., but 5 o'clock a.m. again. So from 5 to 5, doing the hard things, making those cold calls every day, going door to door every day, getting told no every day and getting up and doing it again, being determined, doing the hard things, because if you have a vision, being no is a part of your vision. Being told no is a part of your vision. So you can't be deterred by being told no. You can't be deterred by losing a proposal or losing the opportunity to win a contract. Doing those hard things, always moving forward. And so, starting a company with $2,000 and I did exit the business and I sold it for $23 million, which meant, Max, that every $100 I put in, I got over $1 million back. Now you can do the math on that if you like, but that's a pretty big jump. And I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it again here in the next couple of years. And so, but doing the hard things, man, you can't get to where you want to be unless you're willing to put the work in it. And I tell my mentors, and we have a conversation all about this all the time, where we say, hey, don't cheat the grind. Don't cheat the grind, because if you cheat the grind, you won't show up at the right destination. You gotta go through the grind. You gotta make the grind a part of your personality. You gotta make the grind a part of your DNA. You gotta make the grind a part of your chromosomes. You gotta make the grind a part of it. And so I never did cheat the grind. I never did cheat the grind. So that's what I mean by when I say you got to do the hard things. Yes.
This is Justin. So I love everything you're saying. And one thing that I love what you just said is the fact that you have a mentor. You said my mentor. So can you talk a bit about the importance of, like, no matter what state, because I think most people think, man, here's someone who is at a high level of the game, has already exited multiple millions, and you still have mentors. Can you talk a bit about why that's important?
Yeah, so it's important to have mentors because you always want to have people around you that have been there and done that. And fortunately for me, I have mentors that have been there and done it. I'll give you an example. One of my mentors is a guy by the name of Jack Bovender. His name doesn't mean anything to anybody on this call, but Jack happened to be the CEO of HCA at one time. He did the largest leveraged buyout deal in the world at the time, where he bought out a company for $30 billion. And so when I talk about doing deals, $23 million funding error. But what he taught me how to do deals. He taught me the importance of growing a business, surrounding yourself with the right people, firing yourself and getting out of the way. He taught me all of those things. So it's important for you to have a mentor that's been there and done it. And I often tell my proteges, if you will, if they ask me a question, if I've never done it before, I don't give them an answer. I don't do any hypotheticals. I don't do a what about. I don't do any of that. And so the folks on this call can be assured that if I talk about it, I've done it. If I talk about it, I've done it. And so I've had a number of mentors who have been very successful in life. And I didn't walk up to them and say, hey, be my mentor. It took some time for me to get to know each and every one of them. But Jack Bovender is former CEO of HCA. And if you ever heard of a company or a bank called Bank of America, he is the lead director for Bank of America. He's my mentor and good friend, and we still meet once every 2 weeks or once every week. We just met together the other day. And so it's important to have somebody around you that's done it. I always believe it's easier to be it if you can see it. And so that's why I try to make myself available any chance that I get. When the guys from Earn Your Leisure called me and said, hey, Darrell, would you come and speak to us? I mean, I actually jumped in my airplane and flew to Atlanta and spoke to them because, I believe that what they're trying to do and what you all are trying to do is expose people to somebody who's actually done it. And the reason why I don't charge to share the information that I'm sharing is because I've actually made millions from the information that I'm sharing because I actually done it and I don't need the money. So I'm here to share as much as I possibly can about the journey that I've been on for the past 25, 30 years. And so, yeah, it's important to have a mentor. It's important to have a mentor.
So, and I can attest to that. Because, I'll tell you a quick story kind of how Darrell and I met. Obviously, I've seen him on Earn Your Leisure. I was a guest on Earn Your Leisure as well. But I seen that Darrell was in aviation. And that was the first thing that brought attention to me. He's like, oh, another brother in aviation. And my man got a plane. Like, if you know anything about the plane world, he's got a very, very nice plane. And he pilots it himself. So I was literally in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, not too far from the location, Nashville or anything. And I literally comment on his Instagram and say, I'm in the area. I would love to meet with you. And I think we met like the day before or after Christmas. And he spent the whole hour with me. And people reach out to me all the time and say, hey, can you be my mentor? Can you be my mentor? And I never asked him to be my mentor. I just said, hey, I would love to be able to talk to you. And that's it. And he gave me an hour of his time. And in that time, what I was, as he talks about, if you can see it, you can be it. And me seeing him and what he's accomplished and what he was able to share to me allows me to know there's other levels to where I want to go. So people may look up to me, and I look up to him, and he looks up to other people. So it's the millionaire mindset is you're never everything you need to be. So you need to be reaching out to folks all the time. So I commend him on, and there's many other people in my circle who's become the same and reached out to him as well too, and he's been open on.
Yeah, man. I started my career broke. Neither one of my parents graduated from high school. I'm the first person in my family to go to college, and so I've always needed help, and that's why I continue to try to help as many people as I possibly can. And the cool part about social media is that you can help as many. You can expose yourself to a bunch of people and put out there some quality information and share it. And I do that all the time, and I do it via my YouTube channel, cockpit-conversations.com, and I also do it, on my Instagram. But I do that not to get paid because I'm paid enough. My goals are around helping people and giving and being more charitable. And so, I'm still going to continue to do well, but having done a transaction or two helps you not have to worry about going out and speaking and getting paid for it. And so I like to give back. Max, the things that I didn't get a chance to share with the folks at Earn Your Leisure is, I've helped take two companies public. I've rang the NASDAQ once, and I pushed the NASDAQ button twice. And so I know about not only just building a private company and selling it for $23 million, but I know how to take a company public. And so I've been a part of that process as well. And I actually serve on 3 corporate boards right now. And I'm probably getting a call once a quarter with people calling me to serve on their corporate boards to pay me 6 figures for me to tell them what I'm telling you all for free. And so I'm always in the I'm serious. I'm always in the mode to give back. And so
that's powerful. And I want to get back to your story and talk about some of these things that you've done and the boards that you sit on, et cetera. Let's reset the room one really quick. We're already starting to get questions, and guys, we are going to take some questions. Max, I know you said you only want to do an hour, brother. I don't know if that's possible. This man has done far too much to get this done in an hour, but let's keep rocking and see how much we can get done in that time. But before we go to the next question, guys, do me a favor. Down in that bottom right corner, there is a plus sign. Click that plus sign, and anybody that you care about, anybody that you want to see be successful, anybody who is interested in building wealth, being successful, building teams, doing the hard things, click that plus sign, ping them, bring them into the room. Get 3 people. Everybody hit 3 people, bring them into this room and hear this conversation, because it's really a treat to be able to have access to Darrell this way. So, Darrell, let's go back to your story, man, if you don't mind. I'd love to hear maybe some of the major tent poles in growing the company. You started it fresh out of college, had it for 20 years before you exited. Can you give us some of the major milestones when you knew you had something that could scale and ultimately be sellable? I'd love to hear when you kind of saw that bright line.
Yeah. So the first thing that happened was I couldn't get any bank financing. And so that was a major problem. But, the millionaire mindset says, hey, man, this is a problem you got to solve it. So there were a couple of years where I could not get bank financing. That was one of the major problems. But the biggest problem, guys, that I had, and this is going to sound really strange, the biggest problem was that my mindset was too small. My thoughts were too small. And when I realized that I was thinking too small and I took on another thought process to think much bigger, for example, I used to go to do business with. And I realized it took just the same amount of time to go after small companies as it did to go after big companies. And so I started Norwich companies. And as a result, I started winning prime contracts with Norwich companies. And so initially I was a subcontractor to some companies. And so I decided, since I was a subcontractor to some companies, I decided I would walk into the CEO's office and say to him or her that, hey, I want to buy you out of your contract. And so I went from being a subcontractor in the early 90s to approaching the people that I was a subcontractor to and buying them out. And so my mentality went from being a subcontractor to being a prime contractor. And so oftentimes in business, you've got to have the right mentality. If you're thinking small, your business is going to be small. So when I hear people talking about, making six figures and all those kinds of things, I'm thinking, man, you're really selling yourself short, because you could probably make 7, 8, 9, 10 figures. And so one of the tendencies is, again, thinking big. And the second one, and this is a major one, I had to fire myself. Because I was not getting the job done. And oftentimes entrepreneurs, as I said earlier, don't want to fire themselves because it's like your mom used to say when you were a little boy, I brought you in the world and I'll take you out. And oftentimes that's how we feel about our businesses. We feel that since we started them, then we should be the ones to run them. And I guarantee you there's 7 billion people in the world who are better at running your business than you are. And it's best, it would move you to fire yourself out of the way so that your business can grow. Oftentimes it's the entrepreneur that gets in the way of the business growth.
So
they don't know what they don't know. And so I
what does
fired
that mean for your
myself
business,
and the guy that I hired by the name of Stephen Howard Smith worked for one of my competitors. Huh?
So I was asking, what did that mean for your business? Like when you said that you had to fire yourself, more concretely, what did that mean? Like what role did you give and what role did you take?
Okay, let me tell you. You ever heard of a CEO getting fired? You ever heard of a CEO getting fired?
You don't hear about it all
the time. VC companies, they fire them all the time.
VC companies, yeah.
That was,
but not self.
That was me.
Right, he fired himself.
Yeah. I fired myself. I fired myself in the CEO role, and I hired a CEO.
Right. So I guess my question is then, so you hired a CEO, and then what role did you take in the company from that point forward?
I became the chairman with no responsibilities other than I owned 100% of the company. He ran the company day to day. He ran everything. He tripled the size of the company. Everything that I did not know about running a business, he knew how to do it. And our conversations would go something like this. I would say, what if we try this? And he would say, when I tried that at the last company, this is what happened.
Right.
And so I made a commitment to get out of his way. And so I would not go to the office. I would not go to staff meetings. I was the chairman away from the business, and I would go in every now and then just to check on things. But he ran the company and grew it. It was not like Max having the student power as an instructor, where 2 people got their hands on the yoke. No, I got completely out of the way and let him fly the plane.
That's incredible.
We got to get out of the. Most of the times we.
Give people some game a little bit. Can you just go back to that stage in the business, like literally tell us what was going on? Like, because I think people would love to hear, like, you had stagnated, sure, but what else was happening in the business that made you say, Darrell, you're not the one, we got to find somebody else? Like, what on the ground was happening?
One of the things about business is if you're not growing, you're dying. And so we were stagnant for a couple, 3 years. And when I looked around the room, I had a really, really smart team. And so it wasn't the people around the room. It was actually the leader of the people around the room. And that was me. So number one, the numbers were stagnant. And then number two, I had some great people on my team. And in order for them to grow, we need to move past $15, $16 million in revenue. For them to grow into, C-level roles, I needed to grow that company. Now, mind you, at $16 million, it was a great lifestyle business, Max. I mean, I had a plane, had a nice house, nice cars, all those things that, own some real estate. But my mindset said, I want to take this company to 100 million. We didn't make it to 100 million because we didn't make it to 100 million. I sold it before then, but my mindset said, let's go to 100 million. And the reason why we didn't make it to 100 million is because the people that I had on my team at the time that we were 16 million and I hired the CEO, they were good up until about 45 million. So it's kind of like having a basketball team that can make it to the first round of the playoffs, but they're probably not going to take it to the championship. And for me as an entrepreneur, I said, I can exit right here at the second round of the playoffs and get $23 million and go do something else. And so that's what I did. But the big point here is most companies go out of business because of the founder. And I call it founder gone wild, like the TV show that you all see. Founder gone wild means they know everything. They just wilding. They know everything about the business. They know everything about the people. They know everything. And so I didn't want to be a founder gone wild, man. So I fired myself. Now, firing myself ain't a bad thing. I mean, I still owned 100% of the stock, so it wasn't no big deal, right? That's kind of the way.
That's a fantastic deal. Sound like to me.
Yeah.
I would love to have Justin and Max. Maybe we kind of go around and have you guys chime in on a couple of things, because Darrell, you said something a moment ago that I know these two, excuse me, will really relate to. You know, and I've seen some other stuff where you address this. You said that when you ask people what they want, a moment ago you were talking about the size of business they want to grow. They tend to say something that is too small. You know, it reminds me of like one of my favorite quotes is by a guy named Daniel Burnham. It says, "Make no small plans, for they have no power to stir men's blood, and probably themselves won't be realized." Max, right. Justin, can you guys chime in on that too? Like, where have you seen small thinking keep somebody from being what they could have been if they had just thought bigger? Like, I'd love to hear both of you guys chime in on that too.
I mean, I'll start. I can't even think about myself, man. You know, like, I remember the times where you dream for a 6-figure job. Now it's a bad month. And then even to the point where I am now, when he talks about maybe you should fire yourself. Maybe, and I'm thinking, like, maybe I have taken the company that I've built to as high as I could possibly do it because of the dedication and time I do it, and I need to bring somebody in. So the whole reason why I'm sitting here quiet, because I'm sitting here looking in the mirror, evaluating myself off the game he's giving out.
It might be time, Max.
That's real. That's real.
It might be time, man.
Yeah, I mean,
but that's one of the big things for us, man. Is entrepreneurs don't want to get out of the way. It's an ego thing, man. I had a lady ask me a question. She said, "Well, why didn't you keep the CEO role? Why didn't you just keep the title?" I said, "Because the title didn't mean anything. It was important for me to grow the company." And here's another thing, Max, is money can't be your only why. I was making a bunch of money at $16 million a year. I was making a bunch of money, more than I ever made. I mean, my dad, when he retired, he was making $10 an hour. So I was in heaven making that. But the why was bigger than the money. The why was the people. How can I help these people go from point A to point B, from junior accountant to CFO, from recruiter to chief operating officer? I had people that I wanted to see grow and aspire and do bigger things. And so it wasn't about the money, it was about the people. And so it's got to be bigger than the money. The why has got to be bigger than the money, because you will make the money. And then what? What are you going to do then?
Yeah.
You get complacent.
And just what were you going to say? I mean, I know you've seen people thinking too small too. Like, talk about what you've seen. And big companies, small companies, you tell us.
You know, I've seen it in big companies. I've seen it, just in my own life. I mean, I think especially us just being black men, right? Like, none of us grew up with money. And you have to kind of get over this hump. We talked about this, on the last call with Ish. And you kind of get over this hump of believing that you deserve it. Vince and I have conversations like this all the time, because I've had multiple businesses fail. I've had, and now we've got a couple businesses that are doing fairly well. And we talk all the time. How do we get to that next plateau? Are we thinking too small? Aren't we? And so we challenge each other. I know Vince challenges us all the time to think, hey, we could build this to a $100 million company, So I really appreciate, you sharing that. I see it all the time on social media. I see people asking questions like, well, what would you do with $30,000 if you had $30,000 in your bank account right now?
I'd cry.
Go back to sleep.
Yeah, exactly.
Cry.
And I wouldn't. And so, but it's like
damn.
And you see the responses, and the responses are like, oh, I'll go on vacation. I'd take my family to Jamaica. It'd be all, it's all this stuff. And I'm sitting here thinking, man, like, you really are thinking small. And how can I get my people to think, right? How can I get my people to think bigger?
Yeah.
One of the things, guys, what what we need to help people to realize is we're all Americans. We live in the greatest free market economy in the world. And if you're working a job, this is not a quit your job speech. I don't want you to think about that. I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying if you're working a job and you're making $100,000 a year, and you live in quote unquote the American dream, you're probably making somebody else $1 million a year. And so if you want to participate in this, if you want to participate fully in this free market enterprise and use the talents that your parents and your grandparents and your ancestors couldn't use, it's hard to take advantage of the free market enterprise with a job. I mean, if I had kept my job, I may have been making six figures right now. I mean, if I'm making six figures a month, I'm mad. And so you got to participate. The best way to participate in this economy is via entrepreneurship. This country is founded on ownership and entrepreneurship. Amen, but when you go to college, everybody's telling you, hey, make good grades, get a good job. And I just don't know if that's the right speech.
Darrell, do grades matter?
No. I hired a bunch of 4.0s. The grades doesn't matter. The school doesn't matter. I hired Harvard grads. I hired Vandy grads. That's my point. You can hire those people. You can hire the smart folks.
Somebody
hey man, I was on academic probation so many times I can't even count. And then when I go back to the university, they're like, "Oh, you were so smart." That's because I threw a few G's at the university, and they're like, "Now I'm smart." They remember me being smart now.
Right. Funny how that memory changed. What was your GPA, Darrell?
When I graduated, it was a 2.0 something. I was borderline.
No. I thought I heard a story you told one time before you transferred to Middle Tennessee.
Oh, okay. So, see, now we're going to talk about failure. So, the first school I went to was DeVry in Atlanta. I stayed there 8 months, and my parents couldn't afford for me to stay there. I came home and I went to Chattanooga State Community College, where I dropped out, never did get my grades until about 20 years later. I went back to give a speech at Chattanooga State, and I told the president I had gone to school there before, and I never did get my grades. And he sent somebody to the office to get them, and my grades were 1.234. Now you don't realize.
Is that a radio frequency, Darrell? Darrell, is that a radio frequency?
You don't realize how hard that is, man.
1.2.
Yeah, 1.234. Can you contact ground on 1.234?
Exactly.
So, but I was a failure.
But it was a good sequence. It was a good sequence of numbers.
I can guarantee you there ain't nobody at Chattanooga State Community College right now with a 1.234. You can't make it work like that, man. You got to take the right amount. You got to have the right amount of D's.
It showed how special you are.
You got to have the right amount of C's and D's, man.
Yeah, man. It's a technique to this.
You're right. It takes work.
It's a technique to it, man.
I wanna change gears a little bit, because another thing that I really thought was fascinating, but not terribly surprising, is that people who are tremendously successful, I find really they invest in every aspect of who they are, right? So not just smart and hardworking, what have you. They also pay a lot of attention to their physical self, right? And so you see a lot of athletes do particularly well in business because they know what it is to really push to the point of literal exhaustion. And Darrell, you have some experience with doing very strenuous physical things. And again, I want to get the guys to chime in on this because they too have done a lot of stuff physically that was very, very challenging. But tell your story, Darrell, on that.
Yeah, so I've done over 20 marathons, and I've done 10 Ironmans. An Ironman race is a 2.4 mile swim, a 112 mile bike, followed by a 26.2 mile run. I've done 10 of those, including the ones you see on TV in Hawaii, where it's 99 degrees and 95% humidity. But the way that liken that to business is when you set out to go do a marathon. When I set out to go do a marathon, I don't set out to go run 26.2 miles. I set out to run 1 mile 26 times so that I can wrap my mind around it. And that's how it is in business. You got to break.
Again.
Say it again.
Yes, okay. Sir. That was a gem right there. Say it again.
When I go run a marathon, I don't set out to go run 26.2 miles. I set out to go run 1 mile 26 times. I break it down into small pieces where I can wrap my mind around it. Where I can wrap my mind around. So I don't want to, be overwhelmed at the start line. At the start line, I'm thinking about mile 1, and then I get that behind me, and then I'm thinking about mile 2. And that's just like in business. If you can set little goals along the way that you feel, that little goals along the way that you can almost see, touch, and feel, you can make it to that goal. But if you set out to say, hey man, I want to be worth $100 million, well, that's cool. But hey, why don't you set out to be worth $1,000 first, and then do that 10 times and become worth $10,000, and then do that 10 times and become worth $100,000, and then do that 10 times and you're worth $1 million. And so,
you know what I love about that, Darrell, is because it also shows that the progression, because a lot of folks take it to the extreme, which is, I want to be 100 million, I want to be worth $100 million, and they set that as the goal, but they don't really think about the steps in between.
Yes.
And it's similar to the conversation I was saying before that I see all the time. Well, what would if I had $30,000 in the bank account? And everyone's talking about, I would go to Jamaica and I do all these other things. And the first thing I thought is they should say, whatever got me that 30,000, I need to scale that. I need to do that. I need to 10x that. Like, why wasn't that?
Yes.
No one answered that way, which was strange.
Well, and I'm not going to. I mean, look here, man. $30,000 is a lot. That's a lot of money to some folks. So I am not going to.
Yeah, I'm not minimizing the fact that it's not a lot of money to some folks. What I'm what I'm talking about is when people say, "What will I do with that 30,000?" The response was everything but scale it. It was, I'm going to Jamaica. I'm doing all these other things. I'm buying, my wife this and that, which is nice. Do a little bit of that. But nobody said I'm going to.
So let me give you my philosophy on that. Let me give you my philosophy. Every dollar is like a soldier working for you, and every time you spend it on some bull crap, it's like killing a soldier. So if you got 30,000 soldiers working for you, then they can go out. If you invested in real estate or dividend stocks, they can go out and add soldiers to themselves. And the goal is to have enough soldiers working for you every day that they're recruiting enough soldiers so that you can kill a few every now and then. You can go out and buy a Ferrari and not miss the soldiers. But you need to get to a place where you have got enough soldiers working for you that you don't have to worry about soldiers anymore. And so every dollar is a soldier. So the person who's got 30,000 soldiers, if they're thinking about going on vacation in Jamaica and then buying their wives some earrings, blah, 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 they're going to kill off 10, 15 soldiers, and they're going to be back to having 15,000 soldiers, which is going in the wrong direction. And so my philosophy is I always go out and I build up a whole bunch of soldiers, and then the things that I want to buy, I'll kill off a few of them, and then I'll build it up again, and then I'll kill off a few of them. But it's never to the point that we're never going backwards. We ain't never going backwards. It's a steady climb of soldiers working for me every day. And even if I don't do anything, if I don't do nothing, Max, if I just sit on this couch every day, my soldiers got me squared away.
So that's a gem. I hope folks wrote that one down. That's a real bar. Justin, you were going to say something else?
Well, just, and in this same vein. So earlier you said that, you were kind of happy that social media didn't exist while you were building your business. And I'm giving a specific example about how, you even said that people want to show a lot. They don't actually want to do. And so, this is called the Millionaires Mindset. So how do we get that into people? What are some strategies for how we can help change, when someone gets asked that question again, that they think about it differently?
Well, first of all, when Max told me he wanted me to speak on Millionaires Mindset, I was actually kind of pissed because I don't want to go back to being a millionaire. So, Max, next time you have me on chat, be a multimillionaire mindset.
Hey, Darrell, I get it. You just had to bring some people up here first, and then we had the next room.
Right.
Yeah, Max. I don't want to go back to being a millionaire, man. I'm just shooting the board with you. But it's just exposure, man. It's exposure. When you're around, if you got 30 grand in the bank, but you're around some people who got 250,000 in the bank, that kind of stretches you. And so, oftentimes, for us, we may have 30,000 in the bank, and that's more than anybody in our entire family.
Right.
And so we're thinking, man, we've got to go out and do something elaborate, And so it's just a matter of exposure. I told you my mentor, he did a deal, $30 billion. I mean, he did a $30 billion transaction, the largest leverage buyout in the history of the company at the time. I mean, I did a $23 million transaction. I felt a little small.
Yeah, but I hear you. It's all relative, though.
But I'm gonna move a little bit further north next time because, I saw what he did and I know what's possible. So it's just a matter of exposure, man.
It's the same thing there. I mean, I went out and bought a plane last year, and I come to hang out in your hangar, and you tell me you stroked a check for that plane, and my friends ain't got no plane. So when I tell them I got a plane, they're amazed. When I look at your plane and you tell me you stroked a check for it, I don't even talk about my plane no more. So it's in the sense that it's good to hang around somebody, because the moment I left your office, the moment I left your hangar, I said, okay, I gotta get my hours up, and I'm gonna get me a Meridian. I'm gonna go get me a M500 so I can get that turboprop and go get something else. And so you pushed me to that level to say, okay, you think it's too small. You was happy, you able to, you making millions of dollars, you able to go get this plane. And now you're like, well, what company can you sell? I was like, I don't know. I mean, maybe we can sell one of them. But so you always pushing me to the next point. And then I got on the phone with Justin and Vince, two of the smartest people I know. I said, we got to have a meeting. We got to do something better. And that's how we're at this point now. So you're right. It's all about perspective. If you're always the biggest in your camp, you're never going to grow. You're never going to grow.
Well, Max, let me say this, man. First of all, I invited you down to the Bahamas, and we're going to get there. And one of the reasons why I invited you down to the Bahamas, and why I invite a lot of entrepreneurs down to the Bahamas, to my place in the Bahamas, because I want to show them some stuff they can't unsee. And when they get back, they're going to work their butts off. And what happened to me about 19 years ago, a friend of mine flew me to the Bahamas on his plane, me and my son, and he showed me some stuff I couldn't unsee. So when I got back, I said, I got to work my butt off, because there's another life out here that I've not been exposed to. But now that I've been exposed to it, I want to see if I can work hard so that I can get to that place. Now, but also, Max, let's be mindful that we got to stay in our lane.
Correct.
We got to stay in our lane. And so, I own a Pilatus. I stroked a check for it, cash. That plane is in my lane. Now, could I have stretched and bought a Learjet? I could have. But that may have filled up my lane a little bit. So make sure you stay comfortably in your lane. Don't go out and buy a plane just because you saw another guy with a bigger plane. So stay in your lane. But
it's you made me go out and say do bigger. Not go get a bigger plane, but do bigger so I can go do bigger things.
Right.
So it's the basis point. I'm going to do bigger at the base.
Yeah. Yes.
Hey guys,
I want you to do bigger, man. I want you to do bigger. So what's funny is,
hey Darrell, hold on real quick. Darrell, can you hear me? Okay, I just want to make sure we got a bunch of folks that want to ask you questions, and before they fall out, and before Max turns into a pumpkin, are you cool to take some questions, man?
Yeah, man. I blocked 2 hours, so whatever you guys want to use is good. With me.
Okay. All right, cool. So this thing is going crazy. While we bring some people up, Max and Justin, do y'all want to circle back on that question of what you do to keep, your physical self strong enough? How do you push yourself physically? Because it's not just a mental game. I know that, Darrell does Ironman. He's got 10 of them under his belt. What do you do that stretches you physically, and how does it impact your performance in terms of business? And while you're doing that, I'm going to queue up these questions. Max, you want to go first?
I think for me and my whole content team, we we recently did 75 hard, and it's just a challenge. It's an Andy Frisella's challenge where you have to work out twice a day, at least 45 minutes, drink water, read a book, follow a diet. And it's just doing these things to see if you can stretch your imagination, your time, put you under physical distress. And that kind of helped the team, and it helped us bond together, but it also showed us some new limits. I'm not getting any younger, so I had to push myself to keep staying that aspect. So what about you, Justin?
Yeah, I mean, me personally, I'm probably not where I used to be, and I've made a commitment to kind of get back to it. I used to be a gym rat, so I'm not a stranger to the fitness thing. My wife actually used to be a fitness instructor, so she and I, dedicated to me trying to get back into shape, the way that I was. I'm not in bad shape, but I'm not where I was, and so that's the commitment for this year. And it's interesting because when you talk about firing yourself, that was a conversation that Vince and Max and I have had this year, which is how do we get to a point where we can fire ourselves out of the company, and specifically me being the technical person who was building a lot of it and not having resources. So when we first started the company, we just did what we had to do. We grinded. And honestly, the reality is I didn't have time to work out because I was coding. I'd be up till 2, 3 in the morning and spent, a long time doing that before we kind of got to the point where now we actually can hire resources. And so I got a lot of time back to focus on more strategic stuff and also personal health, and mental health. So, so that's just the reality of building a business of where we are, and how we're trying to continue to grow ourselves mentally, physically, and also our businesses.
Yeah, hugely important. Go ahead, Darrell. I just want to give some good housekeeping to the people who are coming up on stage. And Darrell, you got it. Folks, when you're coming up on stage, do me a favor and mute your mic, because the way Clubhouse works is you come on to the stage and your mic is hot. So when you guys come up on stage, hit that mute for us, and then PTR, which just means pull to refresh, so you can see the most up-to-date lineup. And we're going to go in order from top to bottom. So when we do start taking questions, we're going to go Justin, and then to Ray, and then Consuelo, and then Nancy. So just a little bit of housekeeping there. And again, one more quick reset before we hand the mic to Darrell and then go to questions. This is the Millionaires Mindset Room. So if you know people who aspire to be millionaires or more, multimillionaires, even billionaires, people who have what it takes and want to hear from somebody who actually did it, hit that plus sign in the bottom right corner of your screen and ping 3 people and bring them in. We're talking with Darrell Freeman today, who did it. He's not just talking about it, he did it. Hit that plus sign, ping 3 people. Darrell, you got it. And then we're going to go to questions.
Yeah, I was going to say that to you all, if you can't replace yourself right now, but you need to be thinking of a plan that one day that you will. So you need to be working towards that. You need to be working towards, for example, the company that you're building. Is there a company out there that looks like that you're trying to emulate? You're trying to be like. I mean, let's say if you were an IT company, maybe you want to be IBM, and so you put your focus on IBM, but then you go to IBM and you find their number 2 man or woman, and then you replace yourself in your company with that person. Then you got somebody who is experienced that's built IBM, but now they're working for you. And so the point is, find out what company is it that you want your company to be like, and then go steal their people. Go steal their person. And that's exactly what I did. Back to the health piece, health, when I was young, I'm 56 now. When I was young, cash was king. At my age, health is king. And you need to start young, taking care of your health, so that when you get to a place in life where you got more cash than you need, you can actually enjoy it. You don't want to be laid up, 400 pounds with, several $million in the bank, but you can't enjoy it. So health is king. Right now, for young folks in their early 30s, they're not thinking health; they're thinking cash. But health is king. Cash is king too, but health is king.
Yeah. Couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. Let's start taking some questions, and then we'll go back to hearing some more Darrell's story. He's got some more stories, y'all, some more endeavors and ventures. But let's go to questions. Justin, you got it.
Hey guys, appreciate you for having me in here. I really appreciate the wisdom. I was hopping in and out because I was working at the same time dealing with some sellers. But my question is right now is I'm currently scaling up my real estate wholesaling business and getting into more so the buy and hold aspect. But my issue right now is really just speed. I feel like I have two VAs, one dispo guy, but I feel like our speed isn't where it needs to be. So what would you suggest? How could I fix that? Look at my operation, and what do you think I could do to take it to that next level?
Anybody want to take that? Max, Darrell, Justin?
Now, I'll go let Max take it. It seems like a good real estate question. I'm a buy and hold guy.
I got you. Yeah, Max, what you got for Justin?
So Justin, when you talk about speed, I'm kind of confused. Is it your speed, the lack of how fast you are to respond to sellers, how you move the process along? So I'll just take a stab at this. You need to work on your SOPs, which is your standard operating procedures. And once you have those standard operating procedures set, you need to have everybody that works for you following these procedures. But then you also need to be evaluating and talking to your frontline soldiers at the same time to see what adjustments you need to make. No company writes the SOP and it stays the same for 20 years. But you need to write it, adjust it. And as you find that smooth road to go on this whole time, then you'll start to get faster. But you can't get faster if not everybody's on the same page. So create new SOPs, standard operating procedures, so that your entire team knows how to flow. And you guys should be able to work with your eyes closed so that you can move everything along quickly. So work on your systems, work on your SOPs, and as you solidify that, then you become faster. Everything becomes second nature to you and your team.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that. Okay.
Quick tactical thing for you, Justin. Trainual. If you want to document and then duplicate what you are doing in your business over and over, Trainual. Excellent way to document and easily duplicate the things that are happening in your business so that you can systematize and scale up the way that Max is saying. So anyway, I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, very, very. I'm actually looking. I really appreciate you guys, man. I really love what you do.
Appreciate you, man. Thank you for coming up. I hope that was helpful. Let's go to the next question. I think that's Tarek.
All right. Can you guys hear me? Thank you
so
much for allowing me to be here. I'm new to Clubhouse and just enjoying the conversation and the wisdom. And let me just keep it real. I'm enjoying seeing people that look like me, having this conversation. I'm a pastor, but I'm also got a whole bunch of side hustles. I'm an author. I'm trying to start my own marketing business. But I got my 17-year-old, he's a junior in high school, and he's listening in to you guys as well. And so his question is, for someone that's young like him, that's just getting started, how do you get started? Where do you start, to try to get where you guys are?
Darrell, you were 26. You want to take that?
Is that, you said me, Max?
Yeah. Well, I was saying you, Darrell, because you started your business not much older than his son.
Yeah. So, the first thing, Ray, that you want your son to do is you want him to get a skill set. And so a marketable skill set, whether that's in coding, information technology, computer repair, but he needs to get a skill set that he can take to the marketplace. And so, at the age of 16, he needs to go to community college or some coding school or 4-year college to get some skills. And then I would tell him to bypass going to work for somebody else. Take his skills directly to the marketplace so that he will start learning immediately about how to be an entrepreneur. I started my first company at the age of 26. It was my first company I ever started. I didn't know jack about running a business, but your son will learn along the way. And so what you need him to do is to get some skills and get rid of that thought process of getting a job. Get rid of thought. And for me, Max, I didn't talk about this, but my dad didn't have a high school education. My mom didn't have a high school education for a whole bunch of reasons that we all know. My grandparents didn't have a high school education. Their parents didn't have a high school education. So I was born financially behind. I couldn't catch up with a $100,000 a year job. I couldn't catch the Freeman family up with a $100,000 a year job. I needed to make millions to overcome what we had been missed out on for the last 100 years. And so that's one of the reasons I became an entrepreneur, is because I wanted to get my family caught up financially. We were behind. I mean, the student loan people were calling me, Max, and I ain't even have no phone. calling me. They calling me at my friend's house. Hey, Darrell over there. Man, y'all don't
Hey,
hear
man,
me.
they skip traced.
Oh man. Hey, so look, this is Justin, and I also want to say something quickly to Teray and his son, which is, I mean, one great thing is the fact that your son is riding next to you, and you're having this conversation. And we talked about exposure, and you're exposing him. I got into real estate and to be an entrepreneur because my mother was into real estate. Every Sunday we would go after church and go walk through homes. By the time I was 13, I knew every single builder that there was. My dad owned an advertising agency, and I would go work in his advertising agency when I was a kid. You know, and then I took that. I owned a lawn mowing company as a kid. I've owned every single kind of company. You know, I've owned a mortgage company. And it's because of what I saw my parents expose me to, and I saw what they did. So I think just by that alone is an amazing thing for your son. And you're a pastor, so one of my favorite proverbs is do you see a man skilled in his work, and he'll stand before kings. And that goes to what Darrell just said. Find a skill and be excellent at it. You can build around that marketable thing. For me, it was coding, you know, and I really just dove hard into that. And it allowed me to kind of build a business, meet other people who could complement my skills like Max and Vince, and then take, you know, that into other avenues. So that's just my little tidbit.
I think what you said, Teray, about the exposure that these folks, these guys are showing your son, that's hugely important, and you will never know what impact it's having on him. It may be 2 years, it may be 3 years, and your son will say, "Hey, Dad, remember that time we were talking to Max and those guys? I still remember that. That's the reason why I started this company. That's why I'm doing this." And so, exposure is hugely important. There have been a number of people who worked for me at my company at Zyklon, and they watched me be an entrepreneur, and they decided to go be an entrepreneur themselves. One of the guys, named was Jeremy Smith out of Memphis. I talked with him the other day. He said, "Hey, Darrell, I am full-time on my own now. I remember all the things that you talked about as being an entrepreneur. I'm full-time on my own. This is the first month I made $30-something thousand to the bottom line." I mean, so you don't know who's watching your story. And so that's why I say to you all, when you ask me to come onto a show or Earn Your Leisure, I'm always saying yes, because I want to expose people to the things that I've been very fortunate to do. And you're right. There's very few people who've had a start and an exit. Max, I may be the only person that looks like us that sold a company to a public company. I mean, I sold a company to a publicly traded company. This company that bought my company, they would look at about 100 deals per year and buy 2. Think about that.
That's powerful, man. That's powerful. Teray, is that helpful? I hope that you got some value out of that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I appreciate all of the insight, man. Like I said, my son is listening in, so I appreciate, the fact that I've been telling him this for years, but just to hear somebody else say, "Don't be an employee, be an employer." And so that's awesome, man. I would love to be able to connect with you guys offline and maybe connect with you on Instagram or something, and really just kind of build a relationship with you guys. I think that's so important.
Yeah, Darrell, I'm not sure if you got your social media handles on your Clubhouse profile, or if you're big on social media at all. Max and Justin certainly do. I do as well. But Darrell, if people want to follow you, see what you're up to, understand your different ventures, where should they go?
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram at DarrellSFreemanSenior.com. That's Darrell S. Freeman Senior. That's on my profile on here. And then also I have a YouTube channel called Cockpit Dash Conversations, where I talk to executives about business. Tomorrow, I got one coming out tomorrow. Teray, I got one coming out tomorrow. Talks about the 5 reasons why I quit my job. And your son can listen to it on my YouTube channel. It'll be the 5 reasons why he shouldn't get a job.
Sounds good.
Bam. There you go. Teray, appreciate you, brother. Blessings to you and your son. You're setting a great example just by even exposing him to this conversation, man. Keep doing what you're doing, bro. Let's go to our next question. Consuelo, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. And hey, Darrell, this is an old friend. We went to college together, and I know you as Free Money. So
That's right. Girl, you better watch yourself.
but look, I have a question. I'm glad we're talking about this because you said you were the entrepreneur, you're the owner, but then you sold your company to someone else. What about the legacy? How does that work? Do you even think about that? Like building your organization? Because like I'm at a point where my daughter is a nurse. I'm in mental health. Like we could have a business together, right? And have something going as she is licensed, I'm licensed. But how does that work if you want to build a legacy and have the organization to continue throughout the family, and pass it down?
Hey, Consuelo, I won
Yes.
$23 million. I didn't really care about no legacy. I mean,
Kept it all the way real, didn't you?
I mean, if you start a company, you got $2,000 in it, and somebody offers you $23 million. My kids want the $23 million. We can build some more legacy. So often, what happens with us is we keep our businesses too long, hoping that we could pass it down to our children and their children, and we lose the business in the process. And so, I got the right evaluation, and I sold the company. I admire people who want to build their business and have a legacy. I think all that's great, but my kids are extremely happy with the money they got in the bank. They've never asking me about Zyklon. They're just not asking about it. But I admire folks who want to build a legacy, but that wasn't a part of my deal. And I realized also, we got to realize also how hard it is to build a business and how, if you're an entrepreneur, I'm going to put it this way. If you're an entrepreneur, you're kind of like a gambler at a crap table in Vegas. And you're doing extremely well, and your chips are stacked up high. But you hadn't really won till you took the chips off the table. How many folks have you seen with chips at the crap table in Vegas, stacked up high? They're having a great time. Everybody's bragging about them. And then all of a sudden, a couple bad hands come, and they lose it all. Okay, COVID comes. 2008 comes. Different things happen in the economy, and they lose all their chips. And so for me, it was about getting my chips off the table. But I really appreciate the legacy piece. But, for me, every business that I start, I'm thinking about the exit at the very beginning.
Well, what I think, Consuelo, what I think I hear Darrell saying is that he is definitely building legacy. It may not be in the form of, keeping that particular single, but he has created real wealth, generational wealth. And that's the legacy that he privileges over, saying I quote unquote owned a company for 2 or 3 generations.
Yeah,
and it's still legacy. Yeah, that's right.
Well, yeah, I get that. But, sometimes I think if the generational wealth piece is a piece that we're missing sometimes. And yes, you're right. Anything could happen during the economy, because I've experienced that. I was in the airline industry during 9/11 and lost my full retirement, right? Because the organization I worked for went bankrupt. So I totally get that. However, I do think that it's important for us, if we're going to change some things, and for
Consuelo, we lost you. It looks like you might be going through a bad area. Consuelo, we're going to give you, we're going once.
Can you hear me now?
We're going twice. Consuelo, I'm going to keep you up on stage. If your signal gets, can you? Okay. Go.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
With that, just over time, just creating that, and then also just passing it down. So then, yes, I understand that you generated some wealth, but then also like the next generation, what happens? Because you can still lose that.
What I was able to do when I sold my company, I took those funds and invested in various generational assets. For example, about $2 general stores that have 12, 15-year leases with the option to buy, with the option of 20 more years. And so another 30-something years of leases with the possibility of another 20 years. And so I took that cash and I created generational, and I turned it into generational assets just in a different form. So my kids still have generational wealth. It's just not in the form of Zyklon. And so, all my kids are set, and their kids. I don't have any grandkids, but we're good for several generations. I mean, if they continue to manage their money the way they're supposed to, they're good for several generations. And so some folks are trying to get 6 months worth of, savings. Hopefully I got 6 generations worth of savings.
Hey Vince, do you want to kind of go into that? Consuelo, maybe you're familiar with this, but the family office concept.
Yeah, I don't know if I don't know if you have set up a proper family office, Darrell, but I'd love to get your take on that, as well as a concept that you're kind of touching on here, which we had this conversation a lot in our circles, is, this idea, Consuelo, of a business versus an investment. And what Darrell is saying to you about how hard it is to build a business from scratch, build something that is both scalable and sellable, is incredibly difficult. And so, there's the notion of generating wealth from a business that you own, which means you have operational headaches, et cetera, versus being an investor, which is what he took that capital, took that windfall, and did with it. So he still created wealth, but he did it by way of investing. Do you see the world that way in terms of business opportunities and investment opportunities being a little bit different?
Yes. So is that question? So for me, I've got way more businesses now than I did when I was running Zyklon, when I owned Zyklon. And so, I took some funds and invested it in a company called S3 Recycling Solutions. The CEO is an African-American, 32-year-old guy, grew up in the projects, and my goal was to make him a millionaire. Now he's a millionaire. And so now we got this, he's running this business that's worth millions of dollars now. When I first bought into it, it was worth $200,000. And so I just took funds from myself and invested it in various different things. And so, the thing about when people see that you made $23 million, they bring deals your way. And then you can cherry pick which ones you want to be a part of. And every deal that I do, Consuelo, I review it through a generational lens. How is this going to impact my children and their children and their children? How is this going to impact them? And so all my deals that I do are generational deals. It's just that running Zyklon, the company was 25 years old. I couldn't get it from 45 million to 100 million. This was a good stopping off. It was a good stopping off point, if you will.
And do you like the idea of the family office there, or do you guys have?
I love the idea. I love the idea of the family office. I'm talking about that right now with my wife. But we got several investments in several businesses. I hadn't hired a person to run the family office, but we're looking at that right now as we speak. But guys, I'm having so much fun. 23 million changes your life.
Well, thank you for answering my questions. I appreciate that.
Consuelo,
good to see you.
You too.
Thank you, Consuelo. Appreciate your questions and your comments. And I hope that was helpful. Rob, how about you? You're up, man. You got a question for us?
Hey guys, good evening. Darrell, this is your neighbor Rob, right down the street from you on Tradition Lane. And
over in the ghetto.
I just gotta say, hey, I love the transparency you have around, how your experiences have changed your life and everything. This question is more for the group and less for me. But I think the one thing that people miss and are missing on Clubhouse so far is what it takes in the early days to build success. So like very tactically, when you're getting started, what does your day-to-day look like? Because I think a lot of people think the day-to-day looks like hanging out on social media, hanging out on Clubhouse, and that's just not it. So when you're getting started, what's a typical day in the life of an entrepreneur who's building a business that they can sell for $23 million one day?
Great
so
question.
Rob, for me, there was no social media when I started the company. And so I was in the office every day. There was no internet. www.something just came out. And so every day for me was hitting those phones, opening the phone book, looking for clients, going to various nonprofit organizations, going to various Rotary Club meetings, Chamber of Commerce meetings, but getting my name out there. But I'm just glad social media wasn't around, because I think a lot of people fool themselves into believing they're actually working when they're on Facebook. And I may be wrong. I may just be old, but I'm just glad social media wasn't around, because I think it's, in a lot of people's cases, it's a huge waste of time. And it also makes people make decisions that they shouldn't make. And what I mean by that is they're out there buying cars to put on Instagram, or they want a certain look, and they're spending extra money on things that they shouldn't spend money on. And they're not spending as much time in their business that they should, because they're trying to have this certain look and travel to these different places and show where they are, blah, blah, blah. And so for me, Rob, it was grinding, man. it was grinding. It wasn't no social media.
Yeah. So what's your day like? What time in the morning are you starting? When are you finishing
back
up?
in the day,
and
man.
What pace are you moving at?
You talk about now or then?
No, back then when you're getting started, because I think that's a lot of these 250 people we got in the room. They're getting started. They want to hear the advice from you and others about what does that pace look like? Are you, when you say grind and hustling, like how fast are you moving throughout your day?
I'm moving fast. I'm getting to the office before everybody else gets there. I'm getting there at 5 to 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm there at 7 8 o'clock at night. And then if there's a major problem, I'm 6 in the morning to 6 in the morning. I'm 24 hours nonstop. As an entrepreneur, the buck stops with you, and you got to be there to solve. In the early days, in the beginning, you got to be there to solve all the problems until you get a team built. But I mean, it's the business initially. It sinks or swim based on your activity, and your activity you got to have a bunch of activity. And so what I used to do was I would work all day, and then I would come home at night. That's when I would do my administrative work. And so I'd sell all day. Then at night when I got home after dinner, I do the accounting and the bookkeeping and all of that kind of stuff. And so when you're starting a company, I mean, you got to make all the sacrifices. You got to give up all your time to make it work. And then over time, if you build out your team, you can slow it down a little bit. But I mean, you got to be all in, because in my case, I didn't have no backup plan. I mean, I didn't have no safety net. I was broke. If this was going to work, or I was going to be broken.
Yeah, that's real, man. I know Max was having some connection issues. Max, if you're there and you can hear, you want to jump in on what your day looks like. If not, no worries. We'll come back when his connection gets tight again. Going once, going twice. All right, cool. Justin, you want to talk about what your day looks like, man?
Yeah, I mean, well, intimately. But, to kind of address Rob, I mean, we talked about this in the very beginning of the conversation. Darrell talked about his day starting at 5 a.m. Sometimes you got to go to the next 5 a.m. What it takes to go from 0 to 1. Darrell, I even think you have a YouTube video out there about making the first million, how it's the hardest. And I know for us, yeah, and I talked about, like, we went through, what's our physical health look like, and I used to be a gym rat, and I kind of gave a lot of that up when we were building our company, because a lot of the building, we bootstrapped everything, and so in the early stages, Vince and I were working, and there were nights I just didn't sleep to get to the point where we actually had a product that we could sell, and it's just what it took. We didn't have the money to go out and hire developers, so we had to build it ourselves. And sometimes that's what you got to do. But then to get it to that next stage, now we're at a point where we've got, about 12 people in the company. I'm not as in engineering as I used to be. I'm able to focus on more strategic level things and stuff like this, like being on Clubhouse. And so, yeah, I think it's all phases. And, we had definitely talked about earlier in the conversation about, like, sometimes people, and I agree with Rob 100%, like, sometimes you can have this pie in the sky, like, oh, I'm going to go out, I'm going to be a billionaire, but you don't really do the incremental things in between, the tactical things to kind of get you there. Your roadmap is not correct. It's not right. And all this stuff works together. And I think that's where, like, the mentorship also comes in, so that someone actually grounds you in reality. You're not so, what's that saying? So heavenly minded that you're no earthly good. Like, have the goal, but understand how you're going to get there, and have people around you who are going to encourage you, who have been there before, and can make sure that you're taking the right steps to get there.
I love that. I think that's perfect. There's nothing that I could add. Work hard as hell, and then work a little bit harder than that. Rob, I appreciate you for teeing that question up for folks in the audience.
Great question.
You're exactly right. It's a great question. People do need to hear exactly.
You can't say it enough.
You can't say it enough.
Hey, Rob, let's have a drink one day at the club. Rob?
Yeah, man. Hey, I got two last thoughts. Number one, I think it takes twice as much work as most people think it does. Yeah. Second thought, Darrell, next time you drive your Ferrari by my house, I'm going to need you to make it a little quieter, okay? Don't wake up my kids anymore.
Hey, Rob, you talk about both Ferraris or just one of them?
Oh, wait. I think I usually see you in the black one there.
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
You
I'll
were talking about
next time.
Rob. These are high class problems.
Thank you, Rob.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, we got first world problems over here, y'all.
Amen. Amen.
Thank you, Rob.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Rob.
you, brother.
Thank
Thank you
you,
for the
guys.
question. V, you are up. Do you have a question for the panel?
First off, hi, Darrell, Max, Vincent, and Justin, and I really totally appreciate you guys taking time out of your busy schedules to come and provide us with so much information. It has worked. It has helped me a lot. My question is, I am new to even considering entrepreneurship, so I'm in the process of getting my real estate license. I recently just got commissioned by the state of Texas to be a notary public, which I'm trying to start my own mobile notary company. And then I'm also trying to just go back to school and finish and get my degree. And what I'm coming across is I'm starting to get overwhelmed because I feel like, okay, I'm in my 30s, I'm 32, and I feel like maybe I should have started some of this in my 20s. And so I'm setting this deadline for myself, but at the same time, it's like, okay, maybe I need to focus on one thing at a time. What advice would you give me in regards to just maybe slowing down and not really focusing on moving so fast and trying to get all of this done?
Well, can I tee this question up? Because I want both of you guys to answer this question, but if I can tee it up, because this is great. Darrell started his company at 26. You've heard his story, how successful he's been. Justin and I were older when he had done entrepreneurial things. I had as well, but the one that has, knock on wood, has really hit for us got started much later in life, older than you, sis. So I'm going to need you to not think that 32 is old. Let me start there. But I would love for Darrell and Justin to talk about it, given that they kind of really had their springboards happen at different stages of life.
Hey, V, if I were you, I wouldn't worry about the age piece. That's a non-issue. You know, one of the richest guys in Nashville started his most successful business in his mid-60s. It's called HCA. His name was Jack Master. He became a billionaire. I wouldn't worry about being 32. Don't fret that one bit. And as it relates to your entrepreneur dreams, just grind it out. I mean, just work hard. The education piece, I think that's very important to get a skill set, but I wouldn't worry about the age. I think you can get it done, and being the age that you are, you can multitask and do multiple things.
Yeah, I would agree. You know, in terms of like Vincent said, for us it was a little bit later. I mean, I've had companies before. I've had companies that have done 7-figure businesses before that did well and then they failed. Especially in the 2008, 2009 during that crash. That was a big impact on me and my life. And so, I'm in my 40s now, and but I feel like I'm in my 20s. Like I don't, so my advice to you is don't worry about your age at all. Don't allow it to make you feel like you're out of breath and you're always in a race. And when you talk about focus, I went through a lot of what you went through, which is I felt like I had to do everything. And it was like, why can't I figure this out? And it wasn't until I focused on one thing and focused on making that thing great that something actually happened. Because I just was spread too thin.
Yeah, I really love that advice. I hope you take that and can receive that, because you heard it from somebody who did it early, and from somebody who was about your age, starting entrepreneurship, and then kind of had real success and momentum well after your age. I really just wouldn't focus on that. You're making that an obstacle and a thing. It's not a thing.
Okay.
It's not a thing.
You can do it.
Thank you guys so much. Thank you. I really appreciate it. I'm just putting my time and just focusing, and I'm really just trying to stand strong on my faith and not get discouraged. But at the same time, it's like it's overwhelming because I'm like, okay, I want this done before this time. I want to get this done before this time. So I'm trying to get it all done at one time. And sometimes I'm like, this is a lot.
You sit down and sometimes you got to sit down and ask yourself why. Like, why do I feel that I really need this, and do I really need it?
Okay.
Right? Because you what you have is the ability to outwork people. You know, you just need to focus it, but you already have it.
Okay. Thank you guys so much.
One more thing. So some of my proteges come to me. They'll come to me and say, "Hey, Darrell, I feel a little overwhelmed." And you know what I tell them? Good. You should be overwhelmed. If you're not overwhelmed, you're not going at it hard enough. You need to be overwhelmed. Entrepreneurship shouldn't be easy, run of the mill kind of thing. If you busting your butt, you're going to be overwhelmed a bit. That's just part of the process.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you don't want to be overwhelmed, there's a 9-to-5 job for you for that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in the midst of trying to do that and sell insurance at the same time, so it's like it just gets a little too much to where I have to sometimes stop and just pray and just say, okay, I got this, and then so okay.
Don't be scared of failure, because you're talking to a guy that's been in the hospital over this. You know, and
go ahead.
Don't be scared.
Go ahead and fail a bunch.
I'm not telling you. Right, fail a bunch. And I'm not telling you to work yourself to the point where you're in the hospital like I was. But what I'm saying is, you know, you're in good company. You know, all of our stories started out just like what you're saying. And like I said, you have that characteristic where you're willing to work hard. And all you got to do is just focus that energy, and you're going to do fine. You're going to be amazing.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. I really appreciate you guys just, again, taking out the time to just provide us with all of this information. It's very useful. I'm learning from it. I can't really speak from anyone else, and I really just appreciate it. And you guys just have a blessed rest of your night and a blessed rest of your year.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming up. So I want to reset the room real quick. We're going to start to bring up our last couple of questions before we bring it in for landing. Guys, we're in the Millionaire Mindset room. Max started this room about an hour and a half ago. We were only supposed to go an hour. We're at 90 minutes. We're going to go for a little bit longer because it seems like people are really into this, and they ought to be, because it's the mindset that has to be set first before you can actually, you know, achieve, attain, you know, become the millionaire that so many of us, you know, desire to be. So we're talking with Darrell Freeman, though, more specifically, who has done it. He has created and scaled and exited a business, which is, the brother is in rare air, both figuratively and literally. He's a pilot. But that's who's with us this evening, talking about his journey and all the things that went into becoming as successful as he has become. So if you know other folks who will benefit from this, hit that plus sign in the bottom right corner of your screen and bring 3 people in here and let them hear these last few questions and be blessed before we wrap up this room. And the final thing I'll say is make sure you follow all the moderators on stage. Everybody that's got a green badge under their picture, make sure you go to their profile and follow them so that you can be alerted when they're in other rooms dropping gems like this. So anyway, let's go to the next question, Jeremy, and then we'll bring up a couple more and we'll start the call of the day. Jeremy, you got it. Jeremy, you there?
Yeah. Can you hear me?
We got you loud and clear.
Good deal. So mine is more so not necessarily a question, but kind of a test to what I've seen working with Darrell. And I'll tell you guys this much. I actually used to work for Darrell, and I tell people that it was probably the best thing that ever happened to me. And I say that, and you're like, what do you mean by that? Well, Darrell is true to everything that he says. It's not, you know, stuff he's making up. I've literally seen it with my own eyes. The worst thing was, I was like, you know, I worked for Darrell, but the best thing was Darrell showed me there was a different side that I'd never seen. And I always said Darrell was like the Michael Jordan to me. Still is to this day. Darrell's one of those people where, you know, his attitude, people love him. He's real energetic, and he's humble enough, but he'll still talk some trash, which that's okay too. He's an Omega, so he's supposed to do that. But I think the biggest thing, Darrell dropped so many gems on me in that time working for Zyclone. As a new entrepreneur, one of the 3 things he always told me, and it reminds me now as I'm building and growing, he says, Jeremy, you got 3 things. You got your heart, your brain, and your gut. And he says, when you're younger, your, pretty much your heart's like, oh, I want to do this. My gut's telling me to do it. You jump out there and you do it. You don't have the 401ks. You don't have the kids. You don't have the responsibilities. You get a little bit older. Now you're like, I'm going to jump out here and do it. But your brain's telling me that may not be the smartest thing to do. I got a kid. I got a family. I got 401k. Well, I've jumped out here just in the last couple of months. Darrell had been telling me, he's like, Jeremy, you need to work for yourself. I'm like, yeah, sounds good, but I don't know this. I don't know this, and that. And I got a master's degree, but I'm like, I don't know all this stuff. He's like, you'll figure it out. Just get started. And I think the biggest thing is, and I heard someone mention age. We let age get in the way, and it's gonna bother you if you don't do it. And for the longest of time, I was like, I enjoyed working for Darrell, but when I went to the Bahamas and flew on the jet, and I'm like, Darrell, this is what we like. This is really what you do. He was like, yeah, this is what I'm working, but we're in Bahamas swimming with the pigs, and we're hanging out. And I'm like, hold on now, I'm doing something totally wrong. And it was just the fact of going back to being able to see it. And I think once we see it and realize it really is attainable, it makes it a little more easier to grasp the concept and say, you know what, I don't mind working 14, 15 hours because I know the long play. So, I didn't really have a question. Just wanted to really kind of give props to Darrell because, again, I think he's very, very genuine. Even, being invested with S3, Slim and Husky, he's real diverse. And you can't do nothing but respect it because he's not Instagram crazy. He's not social media crazy. Yeah, I think he's just jumping on there now, but it's like, this is real. You know what I mean? No one gave him any money. He started off with $2,000 in credit cards, right? So I know the whole story. And even working for Zycron, one of the things I admired, and I'm even using it with our team, you may be a minority firm or minority company, but you never played off that. A lot of times we play off, we're a black firm, I'm a minority firm, and we put ourselves in a box so long that we never look to, get outside of the minority place. And it's a good thing you're a minority, but don't use that to the point where that keeps you in this box forever. So, long story short, appreciate you guys. You guys have done an awesome job.
Absolutely.
Hey, can I speak to that real quick? Hey, Jeremy, thank you for being on here. And yeah, we kicked into the Bahamas a few times, and I'm glad you can't unsee that. And Jerry, I appreciate all the compliments. I don't deserve them, but thank you. But Max, I want to cover something here real quick. Jeremy said that my firm was a minority firm, and it was a minority firm, but I never ran it. I never went out and advertised the business as a minority firm. The contracts that we received were comparatively bid. When you want to exit a business, if you got a bunch of minority contracts, there's only so many people that you can sell that business to. And so I always felt that Zyclon, we should just beat IBM's butt regardless. We should just beat Tech Systems' butt regardless. And so when it came time for me to exit the firm, and the companies that were interested in buying the firm, they would ask me, did we have any minority contracts? And the answer was no. But had the answer had been yes, it would have been hard for a majority firm to buy my firm, because if they're not minority, they couldn't maintain the business. And so I just built the firm based on excellence. And I always said we should start at excellence. We shouldn't strive to be excellent. And so just my 2 cents right there.
I love that, man. That's amazing. That's a great nugget, too, in terms of thinking about diversity in that way, having the exit in mind from that perspective. Awesome. Tara, I want to make sure I'm pronouncing it right, but you have the floor.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thanks for the space. I'll quickly introduce myself and ask my two-part questions, if that's okay. So my name is Tara.
Let's try to do 60 seconds if we can, Tara. We're going to wrap up here in a little bit. I just want to make sure we have time for the other two questions that are coming.
Okay. I'll be really quick. Okay. Owner-operator of Quince Juice Cafe in Nashville, downtown Nashville, and I'm a landlord for a long-term and a short-term rental. My question is, everybody keeps saying get a mentor, but that's not always easy. How do you approach people like Max and Darrell and to see how you can learn from them or get under them? A blank email or a blind email is not sufficient. And then how do you create partnerships with other businesses? I had a meeting with the YMCA, but I want to make sure I'm approaching things like that correctly because I'm doing so much of it on my own. I don't have a team. So those are my two questions.
Well, Terry, sounds like you right down the street. So shoot me. Are you on Instagram? No, don't shoot me send me an email. I'll catch up with you.
Okay.
And I'll answer the other question when I catch up with you. How about that?
That was huge.
Okay.
Yeah, so make sure we execute on that one, Sarah, for sure.
For sure. I definitely will. Thank you.
No
you
doubt.
Got my email address?
I think I follow you on the other pages. So if it's the one on your
that's cool.
Oh, okay. On IG.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, I want to.
And what's the name of your company again? What's the name of your company, Tara?
What my juice cafe is Quench. That's KWENCH, and it's at 555 Church Street.
555 Church Street.
Correct.
Quench. All right.
Yes,
I'm going to swing by that.
Okay. I'm waiting on you.
All right.
Go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, I was just going to say. One of the things that struck me about, what Darrell keeps saying, I'm glad social media wasn't around when I was building, because it forced him to network. So there's a good way to use Facebook and Instagram and all these things and Clubhouse, right? Is networking. To make sure that you're actually networking. You're not just a voyeur and just talking a bunch of mess, but you're actually truly networking in establishing valuable relationships. Because I think that's one thing, especially for me being more on the technical side. I'm like, well, if I build it, they'll come. Well, that's not true. They tell you that's not really how it works. Like, you got to get out there and build strong relationships. And I think, like, with the mentor question, I know for us, we found mentors because we were actually out there doing it. We were making it happen. We were working, and we met people as a result of just being out in the street, meeting people, telling everybody what we're doing.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that's maybe the best way to find a mentor is to be out there actually doing the thing. Max, you want to add anything to that comment that the last person was saying? What is the best way to go about finding a mentor if you want to get a hold of a Maxwell, et cetera?
For me, it was one of the things was just, finding somebody in my community I wanted to be like. And I was willing to do anything they wanted to be around them, wash their cars, clean their carpets, drive them around. And as they started to gain that trust and I started to add value to whatever situations they had, I remember one of my first mentors needed a website, and I told him how to build it. I didn't know how to build it, but I learned how to build websites just so I could be around them, for one of his businesses. So those are the things that I did just to be around that person, to learn his mannerisms. I never asked him for money, never asked him for any help. I just wanted to learn how he dealt with people, and I picked those things up. And then my next mentor. And then you get to a point in the status where you find people where you can reach out to somebody like a Darrell, and he will actually respond to me. But you see how gracious he is, because he said he's going to swing by the shop. So, he's just a real dude. So just be around people like that.
I love it. Let's go to our next question. Erica, are you there with us?
Yes, I am. Thank you guys so much for this room. It's been amazing. I actually stepped out in entrepreneurship within the last year and made well over 6 figures. So my question is that my goal is to really scale into that, into that millionaire scale. So my question to you guys, anyone, what is your favorite book on leadership or to really develop that mindset?
Go ahead, Max.
Great question.
For me, it's the book of life. I like to fail forward. There's a lot of books out here, but I like to jump before I know what's on the other side. And yes, there is books out there that can help you, and I can't really name out one exactly. But I like to move forward, and I like to be on the ground, and I like to make mistakes, and I like to correct them. And I'll probably make 5 or 6 mistakes before you get done reading that book. But I'm going to be ahead of you by the time you get done reading that book. Not saying books are bad, but I'm just saying I'm gonna fail forward.
Can I say this is Justin, right? And so and I'm going to echo what he said. Now I'm sort of like an information junkie, and so my reaction to that was I can't name one book because there's just so many of them, and I read all of them. And so I tend to be like a really voracious reader, and so I would say, you hear about a book that a lot of people who are doing what you're trying to do, because there's one of the things that my business partner Vince says that I say all the time, and I say to my children, and I love it. He says success leaves clues, right? And so, and even what Max was saying, another thing is imitation. Sometimes you can become successful just by imitating, right? You don't even have to think about it. Just imitate and model somebody who you want to be like, and that'll help you a lot too. Now, I will grab the books. I'll find out the people who I want to be like and find out what books they're reading, and I'll go with those books, right? But you can also get into paralysis analysis. You just taking in so much information that you're not doing anything. So you got to balance it. You actually got to get out there and start doing stuff and making it happen to put those books that you read into action so that you can actually learn the things that they don't tell you in those books.
That's good. Darrell, what you got?
Yeah, I'm a big doer guy, man. I just go out there and do it. And Erica, Reggie Lewis has a great book that's inspirational called "Whites or White Guys Have All the Fun." That's a great book, good inspirational book from a great African American entrepreneur. But I'm gonna spend more of my time doing than I am gonna spend my time reading. And I told you I was a 2.0 student, so obviously I ain't that smart. But you said you were an entrepreneur already. I think you're on the right path. You're going to do extremely well. You're already at six figures. I think you're going to win. So I wish I had a great book I could give you, but I just don't have one. Wake up in the morning at 5 o'clock and get at it. How about that book?
Yeah. I think I'm going to echo what everybody said, that action trumps kind of reading it and having it on the page. That said, there are some great books out there that you can learn a lot from. The one that I would give you that maybe is not what you would expect is How to Win Friends and Influence People. It's not really about business per se, but I would tell you that no matter what business you're in, and you haven't said what your business is, if you can figure out how to get people to like you, to trust you, if you can learn how to read people, those are the things those are what I call 2 comma skills, right? The single comma skills are fairly technical things, this, that, and the other, but the 2 comma skills are when you can manage people, manage organizations, manage relationships, influence people. Those are the things, right? So How to Win Friends and Influence People, it's a classic. So that's one I'll put out there just so you have a title.
I'll give one book too. This book changed my life. And if you're a solopreneur, there is no substitute for your ability to market yourself. And now, especially with social media, you have to stand out. And the way that you stand out is by being creative, by using words, understanding persuasion. And so the book that changed my life was a book called Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz. My business life, that is. Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz. It was written in the 60s.
By one of the best copywriters to ever do it. Erica, is that helpful? Both the perspective and the actual title?
All 3. Thank you guys so much. And I agree with you. I get up every day at 4 a.m. So the work ethic, I agree. And the books I'm definitely going to purchase. So thank you guys so much.
Erica, you're awesome.
You are too. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Erica. Appreciate you. I think let's make this.
I got a question for Max. Hey, Max. Man, do you get your go to the barber every day?
It's every other day. Steve Harvey lined up.
Man, I'm like, this brother looks like he look in the picture, man. Every day.
It's a tax write-off there.
Your boy Donald Trump has $70,000 in hairstyle stuff.
Exactly. So I'm nowhere near that, so I probably won't get out of it.
That's hilarious. That's the best question of the night. Cortland, my man, you want to ask the last question of the evening for us?
Hey, everyone. Good evening. Thanks for letting me come up here and ask a question real quick. My name is Cortland Savage. I'm the founder and CEO of a nonprofit organization called Philosophy of Culture. And basically, one question I have is I noticed with, Max, talking to Max, Darrell, even Allison, Mike down there, I noticed all entrepreneurs start multiple businesses. Now, my question is why? Why do you start so many different businesses? Because when I tried to start a magazine with my nonprofit organization, the board got mad and said, focus on what's in front of you. And I'm like, I thought we were supposed to, find different ways to bring in revenue. So my question is, why start so many businesses as an entrepreneur?
Hey, Cortland. So initially, I just started one business, and then once I started having success at that, people started bringing deals my way. So I'm probably involved in about 9 or 10 deals right now. So the more success you have, more deals will come your way, and you get a chance to cherry pick what you want to be a part of. Now, your board telling you not to start another business or staying focused on what's in front of you. I don't know if that's good. I don't know if that's good advice, because I know you. I've flown with you. We spent some time together over in was it Whiteville? White
yeah,
Bill?
where your Dollar General is.
Yeah, I own some real estate over there. I've seen it once. But anyway, the point is this: you have a lot of name recognition. You have a great organization, and for you to be only involved in a nonprofit, I think it's a disservice for you. I think you should be doing something big in the aviation industry, whether it's staffing mechanics, et cetera, et cetera. But I believe, man, that the seed for success is inside of you, and you just got to get you just got to get to it, man. I talked to you about that nonprofit stuff. My philosophy is, make a whole bunch of money, then start a nonprofit. Right now, if you go out and talk about being a nonprofit, people are confused when you start talking to them about making money. They're like, okay, is this the nonprofit part or is this the money making part? It's hard to distinguish between the two. But I think the world of you, and I think you got a great future ahead of you. You got to decide, what it is that you want to do. But whatever it is, you're going to be able to do it well. No doubt about that.
Thank you.
Max, what you think about that, man? You got a bunch of shingles out there.
He ain't got no nonprofit shingles, though.
I just started one last year only because it's a safe harbor to pull over about $2 million, and
only after you make money, though, right, Max?
That's after I was paying taxes.
Yeah, but you didn't start that first.
No. So what I will say, Cortland, is I'm a mix in between answers when it comes to starting multiple businesses. I'm an entrepreneur by heart. It's in me. I love to start things. But what I will say is when I found that one thing that got me to the point of success, then I was able to follow some other things. And my other streams of income came from within inside of my first thing, if that makes sense. So you really got to focus on that one thing, but don't try to start multiple things only because you're shying away from really focusing on one thing, if that makes sense. Don't go jump to the next thing because you're stuck at one part. But Darrell's 100% correct. When you start a nonprofit, it's easier to get money in the nonprofit because you hang around other rich people. And you can guilt them into giving money to your charity. And every rich person has some type of charity or belongs to some type of charity because it's advantageous for taxes. And they have a mission, and they have a good mission that they want to be help out, give back.
But you ain't gonna get rich doing that, Cortland.
Negative.
Yeah, that's what I realized. Yeah, I realized.
Yeah, you ain't gonna get no PC-12.
Yeah, I know. I like yours. And Darrell, they at the airport, they're still waiting on the pilot to get off the plane.
Man, that's a bunch of airports. They still waiting on the pilot to get off the plane.
Hey, Cortland, I hope that was helpful, man. Listen, Godspeed to you, and God bless you for wanting to do a nonprofit, but I hope this perspective that Darrell and Max are giving you is helpful.
Yeah, it's definitely helpful. I appreciate it.
Okay, good deal, man. We appreciate you. Thank you for joining us tonight. So listen, I think that maybe we start bringing this thing in for landing, guys. I would love for Darrell certainly to give us some final thoughts for the people. Obviously, Max and Justin, you're welcome to comment as well. But let's go with some final thoughts.
Go ahead, Max.
For me, the reason why I like doing this room, Millionaire Mindset, is because, I've been successful, but more importantly, a lot of people out here like to sell smoke, right? They like figure out how to make funnels. They sell you things they've never done. And I have some access to some pretty cool people. Last time I did this, it was another brother that exited a business for a lot of money. This time it's Darrell. And you get to see that this is possible, and you get to hear from inside their mind. Most people don't get access to these things. And the next one is going to be a brother that owns 30 plus McDonald's. So the idea is most people don't get access to these type of people, and I want to give you the best thing I can do is give you some access to these folks. One, to show you that it's possible, because if you see it, you can be it. And then two, to really let you in the mind understand that the X's and O's are cool, but if you don't have the mindset to get over that hump, you'll never get there. So I want to thank Darrell for coming on, and obviously Justin and Vincent for running this room, because it's a lot to actually run a Clubhouse. But I'm glad I was able to get Darrell on here. He's never done a Clubhouse before, and I hope he does many more, because this is a platform that he can also share his story with other people, and maybe he'll do a regular thing on here as well. So I appreciate you, Darrell.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Justin, you got any final thoughts for the people?
Just happy to be a part of this, man. Love you guys and your businesses. Tune in on Fridays at 1 p.m. Vince and I go live every week. We call it Office Hours. And so you can join our Facebook group. Vince, you can give them the name of the group because we just changed it.
I think it's Real Estate Marketing Mastery, but you can just look for REI Realty. So go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, yep. And, outside of that, if I was able to help and we were able to help some people, great. And I love doing this because I learn too. And I just want to be like Darrell when I grow up.
Don't we all? I'm trying to see if Darrell will adopt 40-plus-year-old people. That's what I'm trying to
you adopt us and lead us and lead us to an exit, Darrell. Please, brother.
Yes.
In all seriousness, Darrell, this has been amazing, man. What's final thoughts do you have for the folks?
Well, first, thanks, Max, Justin, Vincent, for having me on the show. To the folks that are in this Clubhouse room, if you have any doubt about your ability to be successful, go ahead and remove that doubt tonight, because there's a seed for success in each and every one of you. And whatever it is you're trying to achieve, you can achieve it. Social media I've just started sharing information on social media. I don't charge for what I share on social media because I actually made millions of dollars doing what I share. And so I don't need the money, but what I do have the need to do is to make sure that I can share with as many people as I possibly can. So Max and you guys, thank you for allowing me the chance to share. And anytime you want me to show up and share something that I've done, I'm more than happy to do it. I believe in you all. I believe in the people that's on this Clubhouse, and that's our win.
I love it, man. This has been amazing, brother. And Darrell, thank you for being so generous with your time. So with that, we're going to maybe call it a night on this one. Max, you let us know when you plan to do the next Millionaires Mindset. Obviously, we'll be down to help to
hey, Vince,
that. Yep.
My guy just Freeman told me to tell him to tune into cockpit-conversations.com. Tomorrow, I'm going to talk about the 5 reasons why I quit my job.
Boom. Say that one more time. I think you said cockpit conversations. Say it one more time.
Cockpit-conversations.com.
There you go.
My YouTube channel. Go. Tomorrow I'm going to talk about the 5 reasons why I quit my job. And one of them
if you guys just go to YouTube and search Cockpit Conversations, hit that subscribe button. And if you're on here, make sure you give Darrell a follow. He's got 360 followers on here. Let's get him to 500. I appreciate everybody coming in here. I'll see you next time. Look out for the next one. We got somebody that owns over 30 plus McDonald's. Millionaire Mindset. We're going to keep going. I appreciate everybody.
Appreciate you, brother. Awesome topic. Let's do more of it. I'm going to leave this up just for another 60 seconds so you guys can follow all the moderators. Follow Darrell. Let's get him to 500 followers. Follow all the moderators with the badges. You guys have an awesome night. Be blessed.